Evening, guys. Okay, so group call slash Q&A, and we've had a couple of messages, so people can't make it live on the call tonight. But that's fine. We've got loads of stuff to go through. If there are questions, obviously you can pop them up underneath the link to this. You can stick them in the comments if there's any extra questions or things that you want us to go through as a result. But Alice's question master,
Yeah.
and there are a couple of things that I'm going to go through as well towards the end, just because of something that I'm doing at the moment, just to give some kind of extra bits of help. So, first question, I think it's from Carrie, isn't it?
It is, yes, which is how to know which muscles you should be working during your workouts, essentially. So, through the program, we have the workouts that we set. So, every 8 weeks, we will then reset the program, set them a slightly different one. So, it's just knowing that when you're doing those exercises, which muscle should the weights and the exercise be targeting?
Cool. Okay. So, I mean, a general rule is any pulling exercises, you're going to be working the back of the body, and then any pushing exercises. So, pulling exercises, things like rows, lat pull downs, face pulls, um, deadlifts, RDL, any form of deadlifts and things like that. And then the other one, the only slight exception is things like hip thrusts, which you would probably call a pushing exercise. But anything else where you're pulling stuff off the ground, then that is the back of your body. And then any pressing exercise, so chest press, shoulder press, squatting motions, anything like that, you are using the front muscles. If you want to be more specific, you want to think about the muscles. Like if you're moving a joint, you want to think about the muscles that are going to be acting on that joint. So if you're moving around the knee, that's going to be your quads and your hamstrings. So if you are extending the knee, that is straightening the leg out, then that's your quad muscles. If you're bending the knee, so making it bent, that's going to be your hamstrings. Around your hips, if you are bending at the hips, then you're going to be using the hip flexors, which are the top of the quads. But then if you're straightening them up, then that's your glutes and your hamstrings. And it's the same with pulling motion. Now, the only sort of where it kind of gets a little bit complicated is with your back. Now, when you're pulling, depending on how you pull, you're going to target different muscles of the back. So if your arms are wide, you're going to be using the muscles in the upper back and then your traps, which are your shoulder muscles. If your arms are coming in close, then you'll use again the muscles between your shoulder blades, the rhomboids, but you're going to use the lats, which are these big muscles down the side. So when you see these guys who've got these big inverted triangular bodies with those massive wings, those are your lats. So pulling motions like that with your arms close, that's going to be your lats. Pulling motions wide or up here is going to be your rhomboids, which are the muscles between your shoulder blades, your rear delts, which are the muscles over the top of your shoulder blades, and your traps. And then again with pushing, so chest press, if you're pushing around the chest, it's chest press. Upright, it's your shoulder, and so on. You can kind of work it out. If you're doing a single arm exercise and you think, right, which muscle should you can actually kind of put your free hand. So if I'm doing a chest press, like a dumbbell chest press or a machine chest press with one hand, you can feel the muscle working. So I put my hand on the pec, muscle working there. And then you can also check that you're working the right muscle. So if you're doing a chest press with your elbows wide, that's your shoulders. Whereas when you bring your arms down and across, that's your pecs. You made a comment, Carrie, about putting something on the app. That's a great idea. It is something that I will definitely look at. There's nothing directly in the app in the exercise sort of videos, but it's something that we could do, like maybe just a little comment. This is working the chest muscles, the pec muscles, just adding through the exercises. So that's a really good idea. And you do see that if you're using machines at the gym, quite often you've got diagrams and it shows you the muscles that you're working. So if you're working in a commercial, working out in a commercial gym on the machines, look at them there. They're a really good guide. But if you want a kind of a quick and effective or fairly effective way of figuring it out, so just kind of pause the action. So if you're doing a row, pull it in, hold it, and I've gone really dark there for a moment. Hold it, and you'll kind of feel the muscles working. It's that sort of thing. Like when you're doing a squat, hold at the back. I'm not suggesting you do this with weight on your back, but if you do the squat, hold it at the bottom, and you'll feel the quads burning.
Mm.
It's clearly working your quads. Tricep extensions, if you extend down and hold, you'll start to feel your triceps burning. So if you want an idea of the muscles that you're working, you can do it like that as well. Really, this is something that you're really only kind of thinking about the more experienced you become. Okay, so when you're first starting, it's not something necessarily that you need to worry about too much. As long as you're following the form videos and the guidance, that's fine. You're going to be working the muscles anyway. But as you become more experienced and you really want to feel the muscles so that you know you're working it effectively, then that's when this comes into play. But yeah, there's a few tips there. But I think it's a great idea that adding something onto the app later is a good suggestion. I'll go with that one. Yeah. Next question.
Amazing. So next one is there a way of knowing your nutrition ranges, or like, what's going to be the best way to word it? So like what you're eating and if it's fitting within your like calories and like your protein goals for the day without actually tracking it, if that makes sense, through like a tracking app.
If for accuracy, the simple answer is no.
Yeah.
If you want to know how many calories you're eating, you've got to on if it's just a one-off day, then you've got to
Mm.
track. I know it's not always possible for people to track, in which
Yeah.
case there are a few other tools that you can use. We've talked about the hand portion guide, so palm for protein, or if you for red meat, for oily fish, using your fingers as well for white fish and white meat. You've got cupped hand for carbs. You've got a thumb or a thumb for fats, and then two fists for your veg. That's a really good guide if you're doing sort of 3 meals where you are palm for protein, cupped handful of carbs, two fists of veg, and a thumb of fat. You're going to be within your calories, okay? And then other than that, it's kind of just being consistent, and it's the kind of way that I manage my maintenance. I try and be consistent across all the meals, consistent across the week, and eat the same thing for a couple of weeks or similar meals for a couple of weeks, and see what happens to my weight. And you can do same thing for fat loss. Just be really consistent. Plan your food across the week, eat like that for a couple of weeks, see what happens to your weight. If your weight maintains, you're at maintenance. If it drops, you're losing. But that's not a quick way of finding out. And it's not always the most accurate because it doesn't take into account things like extra calories from things like drinks and stuff like that. Effectively, the most effective way of knowing whether you are in a deficit is tracking your calories. It's the hardest way. I get that. It's difficult, especially when you are going out and and things like that. But then that then begs the question about looking at lifestyle, looking at social things like that. And if what you've got to understand is that you are a direct product of your habits and behaviors. How you feel, how you look, how you behave it's a direct result of your routines and behaviors. And if you want to be stronger, if you want to feel fitter, if you want to feel healthier, then we are going to have to change our habits and behaviors. And that's something that I realized, when I was a lot bigger, at 136 kilos, I had to accept that the way I lived and what I did was causing that. And if I wanted to lose weight and then maintain that weight loss and maintain that body shape, my habits and my lifestyle and routines had to change. And that's the key thing. That's the hardest bit amongst this.
Mm.
It's understanding that you're doing that. And it is difficult, but this is where you need coaches to say, look, you've got to understand that things have to change. There are things that need to change. And, if you are finding it hard because you're eating out a lot, then unfortunately, sometimes you have to ask yourself, should we be eating out as much? Or if you do eat out a lot, it's being consistent with those meals so that you kind of figure out what might be causing the weight gain, what you can eat to maintain weight, what you need to eat to lose weight. Um, Another little tip as well is just listening to your hunger cues.
Yeah.
Take your time over eating. So don't wolf it down. Take your time over eating. And then when you are satisfied, stop. Ask yourself the question, what is the next mouthful going to give me that the last one didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, in short, if you want to know if you're in a deficit, the best way is tracking. Then after that, it's being consistent. It is just making sure that you're doing the same or similar things week on week on week on week. That's the key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying on, well, don't really like on track, but staying consistent, I guess, when you're working shifts, or if you are someone that works nights rather than days, or like it changes, some weeks you're on days, some weeks you're on nights, like how to stay consistent in that one. Because obviously we speak a lot about setting your workouts in your diary at set times every day, but we can appreciate that for people that do work shift patterns like that, it can be a lot more difficult. Obviously there are ways to manage it, so it's just how we would do that.
It's really tough. That shift
Mm,
is tough because obviously if it's disrupting your sleep, we've talked
yeah,
about the effects of sleep and the knock-on impacts of lack of sleep and poor sleep. Um, so that's one of the key things you've got to look at is making sure you are managing your sleep. And people need to understand if you've got like spouses or significant others, they need to understand that sleep is really important. If you are somebody who is working a night shift and then somebody says, well, yeah, you get back in and yeah, you need to do this and this. I train people who work nights. I train people who work, 4 or 5 nights a week, and then their shift patterns can change. So particularly if they're, I know this is from John, but for other people who work in the public sector, so doctors, nurses,
mm,
police officers, and it is difficult. It's hard, but sleep is the key one. So it's saying you need to prioritize your sleep, and you need to sort of make sure that you're still trying to hit those. And I know that's hard, especially during the day, but you need to make sure you're hitting those hours for sleep. Couple of tips for that: eye mask to block out light, earplugs to block out noise. Yeah, and just kind of make sure that you do that, get that good quality sleep. In terms of nutrition, it's kind of planning the same. It's still having those meals planned and prepped. I know it's in some ways it's easier because if you're working nights, you haven't got a Greggs that you can nip to and go and get your sausage roll, for example. It's a
yeah,
little bit harder. There is less. However, you do have takeaways that might be there open at all hours. So yeah, but it's planning your meals. It's the same way. It's keeping that nutrition consistent. So making sure you prioritize protein, making sure you're getting healthy fats, lots of veg, all of that sort of stuff, and planning and prepping those meals. In terms of the workouts and everything else, again, it's looking at your week ahead. That's why
yeah,
we suggest like having that time on a Sunday to plan your week ahead and sort of look at where you're free. So the clients that I train that have the changing shift patterns, quite often you find that it's done on a kind of a rolling rota. So it
yeah,
might be like a 4 week rotation or um 3 week rotation or whatever, and they kind of can work around it and you get a routine going. So you go, right, well, this week I'm working noons, so my workouts are going to be here. These are the foods I'm eating. This week I'm working nights, so I'm going to do my workout here. And this is so you can do that sort of thing. But it's a combination of making sure you're sleeping and following the basic principles and then planning ahead. In terms of supplements, now there are a couple of supplements, or one in particular, that can help, but it's not something that's going to help immediately. I would suggest creatine.
hmm,
Creatine it's got loads of benefits, and it's something that we've mentioned on the podcast before. But around shift work, creatine can help with some of the brain fog and some of the kind of slight slowing in kind of brain function that you get when you work in shift patterns. It can help sort of make you, in the long run, make you slightly more cognitively aware and slightly more functioning better in terms of your brain function. The other thing I would watch out for is caffeine. I know it's really easy to kind of rely on caffeine to keep you going and going and going, but that's then going to have the knock-on effect of impacting on your sleep. Um, and then the other thing I would say around that is watching your alcohol intake. One of the impacts of shift work and alcohol, it can exacerbate some of the issues around sleep as well. Okay, so yeah, sleep, making sure that you really do prioritize that sleep and kind of avoiding some of the things that can negatively impact on it. So caffeine and alcohol. Creatine's great for kind of increasing the alertness, and then it's planning and keeping the usual stuff with your food. It's tough. It is tough. But if your shifts change, and then sometimes you're on noons and days, sometimes you're on nights, it's kind of just doubling down for the night shifts, and then you can relax a little bit more when you're doing your noons and days. I feel for anybody who does shift work, it's hard, and I
Yeah.
know, and this is not something that I'm going to suggest to everybody, but I know that some people I've worked with who've done shift work, it was having such an impact on their health and making it so difficult for them to actually do something about changing their health, that it was a serious question. It's like you needed to look at changing the work pattern.
Yeah.
They didn't change jobs. They just said, I'm not doing that shift anymore. Uh,
Mm.
not always possible. I know that's not always possible, but if it is, it's something that you might just need to go, do you know what? I can't do those night shifts anymore. But yeah, that's a difficult one. It is a difficult one.
The only other one that I know purely from my experience with my partner, when he works nights, he'll do 12-hour shifts. When he was doing them, it was either 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. And one thing he found most difficult on the nights was not even sticking to eating, but what you were eating. He
Yeah,
said that there's nothing stranger than, like, you don't really want normal, like a normal meal, like 4 a.m. By the time it gets to them, you're tired, you're flagging. And that's when he used to really struggle and be like, I just want biscuits. I just need sugar to get me through. And or he'd be like, I'd rather just have like a bowl of cereal or something that feels more normal than chicken and veg. So, it's planning ahead like that. If something like a protein shake is going to be easier for you to stomach at that time of day, or like, yeah. And he did that. He'd swap his meals
yeah.
around sometimes and have dinner when he got in at 6 a.m. and then have breakfast at, like, yeah. It
Yeah,
is, like you say, so difficult, but it is watching that caffeine, watching that sugar, and just really trying to plan and prep meals.
yeah,
To
and
try and stop that.
it's again, it's for I've suggested the switching stuff around. So have you know
Yeah,
dinner, and then midnight you might have a light lunch. So you could have a big meal in the evening, which,
yeah.
but
And keep
again,
it going.
the other thing I would suggest as well is that don't have too many carbs for your
Mm,
evening meal, like, because carbs have this soporific effect, this
yeah,
effect of actually causing you to be sleepier. So loads and loads of veg, loads of protein, and a moderate portion of carbs. You do need carbohydrates to keep you going, but a
yeah,
moderate portion of carbs. And then you kind of midnight or your lunch, your mid meal, again, something with a small portion of carbohydrates, because we need
yeah,
that in there filling, but again, high protein, and it could be something light, so it could be salad or something like that, and then having breakfast, but having a carby breakfast,
yeah.
and
Then be getting
I've,
ready to go back to bed, and yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
it could be something like a porridge or a cereal, yeah, having
yeah,
cereal, but again, with the snacks, again, it's protein shakes are great, fruit, that sort of thing. Something like fruit's a good one because you get that little bit of sugar, but you've
yeah,
got other benefits, fiber and volume. So it's filling you, so you're less likely to overeat.
yeah, definitely. But
But
yeah, like I say, it is a difficult one, and it's just
I,
finding out what works for you to try and manage it in.
yeah, and I feel for anybody doing shift work. You have my admiration, absolutely. But yeah,
And then, is it okay? So again, one for the program specifically, when we set a calorie range and then a protein target, is it okay within that to go over your protein goal?
yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, the protein, there's a big thing at the moment again about protein coming up, and I've always said this, that nutrition and fitness goes in cycles. You
It
kind of get
does, absolutely.
you get low sugar, then low fat, then low sugar, and it goes in cycles. These
Yeah,
fat
all at the time.
all the time. At the moment, there's one about protein making you fat, and it's effectively people are just saying these things for getting clicks, getting attention, and selling stuff. It is absolute garbage, effectively. The bottom line is this: unless you have kidney disease or kidney issues, you are really, really unlikely, highly unlikely to be over consuming protein.
Yeah.
If you completely got all of your calories from protein, you would not cause any sort of damage to your body, other than being deficient in the micronutrients that you're not getting from other things. So no, you can go over your protein if you find it easy to go over protein and it keeps you full. That's absolutely fine. They've done studies where they fed people. Now, we recommend 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of your target body weight or lean body weight. Okay, so if your target body weight is, let's say you're currently weighing 100 kilos and your target body weight is 80, then we sort of say, instead of aiming maybe for 150, we might say, right, you're going to go for 120. That's a rough idea. And then we give you a range, sort of that being a minimum, and then maybe up to 140, 150 is your maximum. You can go over that, absolutely fine. They've actually tested people where they've given them 3 to 4 grams per kilo of body weight of protein for prolonged periods of times. They've tested kidney function, liver function. They've tested things like fat gain. No, it doesn't harm your kidneys. It doesn't harm your liver. Over the period of time of the test, and they've done this over a period of months, by which point you would likely to see any harm. And the other thing with the fat gain from protein, your body finds it incredibly difficult to store excess protein as fat.
Yeah.
The process is it's got to convert the protein to glucose first, and then it converts glucose to fat. And both of those processes are energy intensive, and the body doesn't like it. It will do them. If your calorie range, if your maintenance calories were 2000 and all you ate was 3000 calories of protein, then your body will store some of that as fat, but not very much. So yeah, it's absolutely fine. If you're eating 2 to 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight of your protein, that's fine. I've done 2.5 to 3 kilos, 2.5 to 3 grams per kilo of body weight before, and I've only got one kidney, so absolutely fine.
There you go. Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about with that one at all. Yeah, um, it's a common thing at the moment where you've got some internet doctors. I think Malhotra's one. There's Giles Yeo is another one. There's a few of them. They've been on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of the CEO podcast saying that protein's making you fat. Tim Spector, Professor Tim Spector, who sells the Zoe fad diet thing. He's another one. Eating too much protein is making you fat.
Yeah.
Too many calories is making you fat.
Yeah.
Protein.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then just a little bit on what it is that you're up to at the moment and how you're keeping yourself consistent.
Right. So yeah, I after coming back from the stag do, my sister's getting married in the new year, and I realised I needed to lose a little bit of weight because I don't fit into the suit, and I'm like the Grinch. I don't like spending too much money on clothes for myself. Generous elsewhere. Really don't want to spend 250 quid on a new suit, thank you very much, or even 100 quid on a new suit, especially when there's a perfectly good one hanging in my wardrobe. So I've got about 10 kilos to lose between now and well, no, I've got 6 kilos to lose between now and Christmas, which is about a stone. Perfectly doable. Nice reasonable rate of weight loss. I would like to lose 10, so a stone and a half ish. Again, perfectly reasonable rate of weight loss. I practice what I preach. I bang on about consistency. Okay. And one of the things that I really do watch, and this is leading in from a comment that somebody put in their feedback as well. I try and make sure that my weekends are as consistent as my weeks. And that then leads on to how I maintain weight afterwards as well. So my eating in the week is pretty much the same, whether I'm maintaining, whether I'm trying to lose weight, or even if I'm trying to build muscle and bulk. Um, I eat very, very similarly. I've got very similar breakfast, so overnight oats, or I'll do these breakfast cheesecake things that I like, or breakfast muffins. So I have a few kind of standard breakfasts, and I'll eat the same thing, and I know how many calories there are in there because of the tracking and the way I make the recipes up. But it's consistent. The lunches are the same. So if I'm in a fat loss phase, I tend to go for, I love soup, especially this time of year. So in the winter, I'll have soup. I'll stick a load of extra cooked chicken in there. Or what I'm doing this week, soup with loads of chicken in a wrap and have that together. So I'll have the soup that's like a vegetable soup. So carrot and coriander, for example. Tonight's tomato and basil. Um, and I'll have masses of it. So I'll buy these cartons that are 600 grams that say it's got two portions in. Nope, that's one. That is one portion. Because soup it's mostly liquid and that fills, so it makes you feel fuller quicker. Then to make yourself feel fuller for longer, I'll stick a load of protein. So I'd go to Aldi, I buy those ham trimmings or cooked trimmings, so chicken, chop them up, 100 grams of that into the soup, and it gives you sort of 25 grams of protein with that soup. And then I'll partner that with something like a protein shake or um, protein yogurt, something like that. But my point is, it's the same. I change the flavor of the soup. I might change the meat that goes in it. I might change the flavor of the yogurt just to make it a bit more interesting.
Mhm.
It's consistent. My evening meals are a bit more variety. So I've got the same breakfast or similar breakfast, same or similar lunch, bit of variety in the evening. So, you can change your protein source. You might have chicken, you might have fish, you might have beef. But again, I aim for at least 150 grams of raw weight for me because I know that suits me.
Yeah.
So I have the same quantity of that meat. So it's 150 gram of lean mince or 150 grams of raw weight chicken, or 150 grams of raw weight fish. Have that as my protein portion. My carbs, I tend to go with, if it's pasta or rice, I know that for me, 50, 60 grams uncooked weight works. Or potatoes, it's about 200 grams of uncooked potato weight. That gives me the right number of calories. And then I have a load of frozen veg, 200, 250 grams of that. And it fills me. That is a massive plateful. And because I'm consistent across those, I know that my breakfast is 400 calories, my lunch is around 500 calories, maybe, 500, 600 calories, my dinner's 600 calories. That gives me a basic 1600 calorie day. I'll have a protein bar for an extra 200, and then I can stick in something like a protein smoothie with protein shake, fruit, yogurt for another 200. But it's that consistency, and I'll do that across the week. And at the weekends, I'll do the same. And it's the same for 7 days. And it's my key point here is it's that consistency
Yeah.
across that week. If I need to add a little bit of variety in there, I might kind of go, right, I'll look ahead. So this weekend, we're going to go out. We've got vouchers. So we're going to go out for a meal. So what I've done is I've just taken away one of those snacks. So I've saved 100, 200 calories from my weekdays foods. I've really made sure I've upped my veg. So I make sure I've got loads and loads of veg in there, but I'm trying to save 100, 200 calories. I can save 200 calories a day because I've got that to play with.
Mm.
But yeah, I make sure that I save those for that meal if I want that extra. But I know that I've got to be consistent because consistency works. It's short term as well. So the one thing I am going to do is I'm going to do this for, and this is something that you can do as you're going through this program. I'm going to do this for 4 weeks. I'm then going to have 2 or 3 days where I'll eat at maintenance. I'll have my calories up a bit.
Yeah.
Mentally, dieting is hard. And this is something that I wanted to kind of put in at this stage because we're coming to the end. Is this week 4?
Yeah.
right, the end of week 4. So it's getting to that stage now where this starts getting tough. So it might be that you just need a few days. Now, I'm not going to go crazy on those few days. I'm just going to up my calories to maintenance. I'm still going to track to make sure I'm within those calories, but my main meals will be the same. I'll still have the same breakfast, lunch, and an evening meal. I might add in a little bit extra for the evening meal, or I might have a dessert afterwards, or I might have a piece of chocolate. But the rest of it is effectively the same. I'm not just kind of going. You see these cheat days where they go and have like these 10,000 calorie
Yeah.
days. Not going to do that. I'm not going to go mental and go and order a takeaway from Domino's and just have everything. It's going to be the same stuff and just adding in a couple of little bits. I might have, I'm doing dry October, Stoptober. But then come November, I might go, do you know what? I'm going to have a couple of beers on a Saturday night. And that'll be the extra calories. But you've got to be consistent. That is the key thing. If you are going through this and your weekends don't look at least similar to your weekdays, that's where you're going to fall down. And it's particularly for women because you've got fewer calories to play with than men. And it is harder. That's why fat loss is harder for women. Yeah, absolutely. Because men can eat more, right? Physically, we're generally bigger. We've also got slightly higher proportion of muscle mass to fat mass. So, we do burn calories a little bit more. The other thing I'm doing, obviously, I'm not drinking this month. That makes things a hell of a lot easier. Because it just cuts out a whole lot of calories. But the other thing I am going to do is just really track my steps and make an effort that I'm going to try and hit 10,000 a day. So on average, I average about 7.5 to 8. I'm just upping that to 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So if my average was 5,000, I'd up it to 7.5. Now I'm just trying to get it up to 10,000. So today, for example, I am currently on around about 9,000. So when I go and have tea in a minute while I'm waiting for everything to heat up, I am going to be walking on the spot. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to make sure to get those up. But it's not, if I don't hit 10,000, doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world. I know over the week it'll average out at that. But again, I'm trying to bring those up. But yeah, I think the key thing is just kind of, if we're getting to this stage 4 weeks in and you're kind of just feeling that fatigue, yeah, you're feeling kind of the taste that you get this taste fatigue as well because you're eating similar the same things.
Yeah.
It might be that this weekend, and this is not me saying to everybody that you need to do this, but if you are feeling that fatigue, it might be that this weekend you have a couple of days where you eat up to maintenance, and then you go back into the normal routine on Monday. The other thing I just want to quickly mention, and we've talked about this in the past on the podcast that we've done, we've talked about something called the dip.
Yeah.
Right. So the dip is actually, it's a marketing thing. It's by a guy called Seth. Oh, Seth Godin. I can't remember his surname now, but he wrote this really short book on something called the dip, which it's really interesting and really does help you understand how to kind of approach this fat loss or this fitness or this health thing. So the dip talks about whenever we start something new, whether it's something like a health journey or learning an instrument or learning a new hobby, we start with excitement. Our excitement's up there and that will keep us motivated and it keeps us going. Unfortunately, the reality of our progress doesn't always match our expectation. And this again addresses some of the comments around about the rate of weight loss. So when we start a fat loss phase, we'll see this kind of dive to start with because of what we've talked about in the past, and then it levels out. Now, our expectation is that weight loss is going to keep going straight down. The reality is it plateaus. And the difference between those two things is kind of the dip. We get the motivation drops because we're not witnessing what we expect. At that point, you've got to kind of trust that the process works and fight through it, because we give more like psychologically, we're more likely to give up when we hit that dip, and we give up and all the progress is gone. Whereas actually, if we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and trust in the process, that will then keep going. And I'm a living example of that. I would never imagine when I started my goal was just to lose weight. And
Mhm.
then I got to a weight, and I surprised myself because I actually started enjoying what I was doing. I was enjoying the workouts. I was enjoying feeling better. When I first started losing weight, I actually gave up alcohol for 2.5 years. And I felt amazing, which is why I know that I'm going to feel good after this month as well. But I started to enjoy the process, and then I saw better results. And then I enjoyed the lifting and lifting heavier, and then I saw even better results. I would never imagine I'd have the physique now that I do, sort of 9 years ago. I'd be the sort of person that I look at and go, oh, I wish I was like that. And I got here just purely by trusting the process and keeping going. So trust that process. And the phrase I like to use a lot, and a lot of my in-person clients have heard this one, is that the person who enjoys the journey is going to travel much further than the person who enjoys the destination. Focus on your process, focus on making sure you enjoy what you're doing. So, enjoy the workouts. If you're not enjoying the workouts, tell us. There are things we can do, we can try. Oh, I'm gone dark again. Focus on enjoying the food you eat. Don't punish yourself by just eating chicken, broccoli, and rice.
Yeah.
Foods that you enjoy. There's a little bit of homework you can do actually, in that you think about what your favorite meal is, and then see if you can make it fit into your calories. So if your favorite meal's a lasagna, what can you do to make that fit into your calories? If your favorite meal's pizza, what can you do?
Yeah.
I had a client who loved burgers, and she's like, I can't eat burgers on a fat loss diet. And I said, yes, you can. I said, go and get your low fat burgers. Go and get a slice of low fat cheese. Use light mayo. Use a brioche buns are often lower calorie than the white buns that she thought she'd have to use. And so she took a burger that would normally be 800, 900, 1,000 calories, and used bacon medallions as well, made a bacon cheeseburger for under 500 calories. That one, I think we actually worked it out, it was about 420 calories. And one of those filled her, with a few air fried chips or low fat chips on the side. She had a meal that's 600 calories instead of 1,000 calories from McDonald's, that actually tasted better and filled her. So, take that as a task for this week. Pick your favorite meal. Is it a curry? Pick a curry. Can you make that curry lower calorie? Is it Chinese? Can you make? And there are loads of recipes on the hub. Look at them. There's a sweet and sour. If you like sweet and sour chicken, there's a sweet and sour chicken recipe on there. If you like chicken tikka masala, there's a chicken tikka recipe on there. If you like a burger, I made a five guy style burger on there for 500 calories. You can have what you like. So enjoy your food, enjoy your workouts, enjoy. You can have alcohol in moderation. Enjoy it. That's the key thing. Focus and enjoy the process, and the destination will come.
Absolutely. Yeah. Completely agree.
Right. I think that's enough of a rant. No, it wasn't even a rant.
No, it wasn't. No.
But
It's a good one to end on.
I'll keep you guys posted on my progress as well. I'm on 2,200 calories a day. I was 95.4 kilos when I got back from the stag do. I'd gained a bit of weight. There was a lot of water weight in there.
Yeah.
This morning I was 90.4. So 8 days in, 5 kilos down. That is a rapid loss. That is mostly water. I would say I probably lost in those 8 days. I would probably say I've lost about 1.5 pounds of fat, just purely because of the deficit I'm in. And I'm going to monitor that. If it falls at around 1.5 pounds or 750 grams a week on average, I'm going to stick at those calories. If it's falling a little bit faster than a kilo a week, I'm actually going to up my calories because I don't want to lose weight too quickly. If it's not, and I'm going to track my weight. And that's the other thing. Being consistent means that it's easier for you to work out if it's working. Because I eat very, very similar foods every day. I know my calories are very, very similar every day. So I know whether it's working. And if I lose too quickly, I can add something in. If I'm losing too slowly, I can cut stuff out a little bit more easily. So consistency, and I know I keep banging on about it. It really, really does help.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's one of the magical key components to fat loss, or to anything really, to get good at anything. You know, if you're learning a new skill or a trade or anything, your consistency and the time and effort you put into it is what will make the difference. So it works for everything.
And those two words there, time and effort. Consistency is hard. Being
Yeah,
consistent with something is hard. But this is why one of the things we wanted you to look at is habits. And I'm hoping you've read some of the stuff on habits in the Education Hub as well. Like, and there's a really good book that you can get on audiobook on it's on Spotify and audiobook. So if you
is
pay
it?
for Spotify, you can actually download it and listen to it. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you go and search for James Clear on Alice has got her copy there. If you
Right here, look. This one here is what you want. Well, it's gonna blur.
if you search for James Clear on Google, um, he does a mailing list, which is actually it's one of the few mailing lists that I
Mm,
stay subscribed to, and he gives three a weekly mailing list with 3 tips. He does his 3-2-1
yeah,
mailing list. Um, and there's some really good stuff there. There's loads of free stuff on his website for habit building. Look at that, because all the stuff that we talk about is taken from him and somebody else, but they're based on it's all science based and evidence based background stuff. So he talks about priming your environment. He talks about setting times within your diary. That is one of the key ways of improving habit sticking. He talks about pairing, habit stacking, or even pairing something you enjoy doing with something that you need to do or a habit you want to build. So that's why I have a playlist for working out. I like listening to a playlist, this playlist particularly when I'm working out. If I'm walking, I listen to a particular podcast on the treadmill, and I will only listen to that podcast. And it's one I really enjoy. The Infinite Monkey Cage, absolute winner.
never heard of it.
Oh, it's a comedy one. It's got Brian Cox, who's a
Yeah, I
bit of
love
an
them.
admirer of mine, and then Robin Ince, a comedian, and
Okay.
it's just crazy. Yeah, or there's another one, Smosh, which is called "Am I the Asshole?" They read a lot of Reddit posts. They're funny, but I only listen to those when I'm walking, so I want to listen to them, so I'll walk,
Yeah.
and or I'll be doing my cardio. I hate cardio with a passion, but I do it because I'm listening to those. So
Yeah.
look at those things, have a look at that book, have a look at his website, read through the stuff that we've put on the Education Hub, because there's loads of stuff on habits in there, and that will help improve that consistency. But consistency is the key word. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's a good point to finish on.
Yeah, amazing.
Right. You're going swimming, are you?
Oh, I don't know if I'll quite make it yet, but that's fine. I can move it all around. We just juggle the diary and we can still fit these things in the week. That's how we do it. But yeah, we'll
And
take
guys,
Andy back for a walk instead.
cool. All right. Have a great week. This is a slightly longer one than others. We're going to use this as the Q&A podcast as well, so it is going to go on Spotify. If you want to listen to it, that you can listen to this one on Spotify. It will be on YouTube as well. So keep your eyes posted for any sort of bits and tips. And if you've got questions, put them in the comments underneath the link to this. Right, cool. We'll speak to you next week. But from us, it is bye for now.
Bye.